Now, no one has had the courage or presumably the opportunity to ask this question, so I'm going to ask it very specifically. Harry, if you took Meghan's threat seriously whenever that actually occurred, why didn't you act responsibly to protect Meghan and your unborn child? Hi, and thank you so much for joining me for a new series for the Vintage Read Show. In this series, I'm going to ask the unanswered questions that were raised in relation to the allegations made by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle against the royal family. Many esteemed writers, biographers have raised these questions, and I'm going to deep dive into them all. One contribution I'm going to make is that every video in this series is going to have the question we're discussing in the title of the video. I hope you will join me, and I hope we can uncover some truth. Okay, so you will see me referring to notes because this is rather complex and I want to get it accurate. Tom Bower said in the preface of Revenge that controlling the narrative was essential to Meghan Markle's success. He even gave an Oscar Wilde quote, "The truth is rarely pure and never simple." I would argue that that controlling of the narrative was also vital, imperative really, for Prince Harry's success. I think the best counter to that is to focus on the many valid questions raised not only by Tom Bower, but numerous respected biographers. Questions that have never been satisfactorily answered, in the hope that one day this will lead to a demand for the answers. Harry's contradictory version of events regarding Meghan's desire to unalive herself will be the focus of this video. He would accuse his family of neglect, severe neglect. However, he also stated that he didn't tell them about it. In another version, he said that as soon as Meghan began suffering these unaliving thoughts, he discussed it with his family and the idea of leaving Britain, and that the conversations continued for over a year. One version was offered up in the Oprah Winfrey interview. The other version was offered up in the Apple TV series, The Me You Can't See. Now, Tom Bower makes a very valid point that verifying these events is extremely difficult because even Harry and Meghan's accounts don't gel. They differ. The timing varies. Harry and Meghan couldn't agree whether Meghan felt this way at night or in the morning or both. They didn't agree on the time period that this crisis unfolded over. I'm going to give you a quote that Meghan said to Oprah Winfrey. "I had just had that conversation with Harry that morning, and it was the next day that I talked to the institution." Now, talking to the institution was her visit to the HR department, the human resources department that is in charge of looking after the staff, the employees of the royal family. So to summarise, she said to Oprah Winfrey that the conversation about unaliving herself happened that morning, whereupon it was left for the entire day, where apparently nothing really happened. It also appears that Harry went off to some engagement during the day. When he came back, she was still upset, whereupon it was decided that they would go on to the Royal Albert Hall to the Cirque du Soleil performance because she didn't want to be left alone. And then the next day she trotted over to see HR. Now, there's no mention that any phone calls were made to the medical team that was currently in charge of Meghan. And why was a medical team in charge of Meghan? And how do I know that a medical team was in charge of Meghan? Because she was 6 months pregnant. So she must have had an obstetrician. She must have had a medical team in charge of her at that point. And no phone call of concern was ever made when she revealed her very dark thoughts to her husband. It's never been explained why Meghan sought help from an unqualified palace official rather than an experienced medical specialist, that was on call. Most pregnant women who have a private obstetrician have their phone number. Most pregnant women that have a private obstetrician even have an after-hours emergency number so that if they have any concerns, someone will get back to them. At the very least, it will be arranged for them to go to a hospital for a checkup. Every pregnant woman, I had private health care when I had my babies, so I know that that is a fact. And I presume that Meghan Markle would have had even better, more hands-on medical health care than I had. So it is a mystery why she didn't consult the medical professional that was literally at the end of her phone. It also hasn't been explained in any way why Harry wasn't sufficiently concerned about the safety of his unborn baby. Doesn't he have the duty to protect his unborn child from potential harm? Because let's be clear, that's what she was saying. She was saying that she had very dark thoughts, very sad thoughts about ending her life and presumably also ending the life of her unborn child. You would think at that point that Harry's duty of care to his unborn child, at the very least, would have kicked in. Now, in the Oprah Winfrey interview, Harry actually said to Oprah Winfrey that he did not share these threats to unalive herself with his family. The quote is, "I did not tell my family." Bauer points out that Harry was the patron of a mental health charity with 7 years of experience receiving medical help for his own mental health problems. Oprah asked this question of Meghan. Did you ever think about going to a hospital, or is that possible that you can check yourself in someplace? So I've got to interject here, where did Meghan go then for her prenatal care? Which hospital? Which obstetrician? Which medical team looked after her? Because surely, like I said, she could have actually brought it up with them. If she had have, within hours, she would have been under monitoring in a hospital. I guarantee it. Now, the schedule for prenatal care is usually an appointment every 4 to 5 weeks until 28 weeks, then every 2 to 3 weeks until 36 weeks, and finally weekly visits until the birth. Now, from my calculation, Meghan was 6 months pregnant. If we assume that she was at least 3 months pregnant when she announced it 2 days before the Australian tour, Princess Eugenie's wedding, then we can presume that around the time of the Cirque du Soleil performance, she was 6 months pregnant. Now, the argument could be, but she had the Cirque du Soleil performance at Royal Albert Hall. She had a duty to fulfill. She had something that she really couldn't cancel very easily. Well, when I was pregnant with my first child, I was actually a singer, and I had engagements that I couldn't cancel at short notice. I had things I had to turn up to. I had things where we couldn't get a replacement for anything we were due to do. But guess what? If I had have had dark thoughts like that, where I would harm my unborn child, then I would have made that call. I would have cancelled that gig. I would have looked after my family first. Which brings us to the title of this video. Why didn't they call the obstetrician? It would have only taken one phone call, not visits to HR. It wouldn't have required a passport, a driver's license, or even car keys. Just one phone call. Pick up your mobile. Now, no one has had the courage or presumably the opportunity to ask this question, so I'm going to ask it very specifically. Harry, if you took Meghan's threat seriously whenever that actually occurred, why didn't you act responsibly to protect Meghan and your unborn child? Why didn't you consult the prenatal carers that would definitely be in place for a pregnancy beyond the 12-week mark? A pregnancy soon to enter its final trimester. Why? Meghan, you claimed repeatedly in the Oprah Winfrey interview that you wanted to go somewhere to receive help. You claimed you actively, repeatedly sought this solution. Obstetrician? Did you try them? Who, what, where, how? Who are they? Where are they? How could a member of the medical profession charged with looking after you during your pregnancy fail so dismally in their duty of care? Why go to HR, yet not tell the medical professional caring for you that was literally one phone call away? Was there an obstetrician, Meghan? Direct quote from Meghan. This wasn't a choice. This was emails and begging for help, saying very specifically, I am concerned for my mental welfare. One phone call would have fixed it. To your current medical team. What is the explanation? You didn't trust your obstetrician? You hid your mental distress from your obstetrician, yet you confessed all to some random person you'd never met before in the HR department. This was a follow-up question from Oprah. So were you thinking of harming yourself? Were you having unaliving thoughts? Meghan said yes, this was very, very clear. But we had to go to this event, which was the Cirque du Soleil event. And I remember him, Prince Harry, saying, "I don't think you can go." And I said, "I can't be left alone." Now, the implicit threat was that if she was left alone, she would do something untoward. She would, harm herself in some way or the baby. Now, presumably, Harry would have been aware of that implicit threat. And I asked my husband what he would have done. And like I said, we had professional responsibilities we couldn't break. When I was pregnant with my first child, he said he would have placed immediately an emergency call to our obstetrician's office and taken me to hospital. Not rocket science, is it? Another direct question to Harry from Oprah Winfrey. "So then did you tell other people in the family, I have to get help for her, we need help for her?" Harry, no. That was not a conversation we would have had. Oprah, why? Harry, I guess I was ashamed of admitting it to them. Oprah, oh. So how could they take action, Harry? You made a big hairy deal over the last 5 years, how they let you down, how they let Meghan down, how they were negligent, how they didn't help you, how they knew just how desperate the situation was and still they didn't help you. You said you didn't tell them. Oprah, you were ashamed of admitting that Meghan needed help. Harry, yeah. Oprah, Harry, I didn't have anyone to turn to. Yes, you did, Haz. The obstetrician. The medical team in charge of your wife's well-being and your unborn child's. Did you go to the next appointment? I presume that the next appointment was very soon, actually. You know how I know that? Because a few weeks after the Cirque du Soleil performance, Meghan actually went over to New York. She flew to New York for her baby shower. Now, any pregnant woman who is 6 months pregnant, although of course it is safe to fly, would have got checked out before she made a trip. She would have gone to see her obstetrician before she made that commitment to make that trip to go to New York for a baby shower. She would have made sure that everything was okay, everything was all cool with the unborn child. And if you were anything like my husband, Harry, if you were free, you would have gone along for the appointment. You would have liked to have been a part of the whole process. You would have wanted to ask your own questions of the obstetrician. Did you think it would have been wise to actually turn up at that appointment before Meghan flew off to her baby shower, Harry, and actually ask the obstetrician, look, Meghan's been having these rather concerning thoughts, these extremely dark thoughts. In fact, she's even threatened to me to actually unalive herself. I'm deeply concerned about this. I think we need more monitoring, some medical help. I think we need some professionals to talk to Meghan, and I think we need someone to be with her at all times. Unless you didn't really believe it was true. In which case you just dried the tears and proceeded to get on with your royal obligations. I guess that's what you do if you really didn't take it that seriously, if you've heard it all before and you didn't really think she was that serious. And if that's the case, why bring it up in an interview with Oprah Winfrey? Why humiliate the now late Queen with that? She saw that interview. She was distressed by that interview. Your whole family saw that interview, Harry, and it was discussed over many days by their courtiers, the response, what they were going to do, what they were going to say. Now, we all know that that was the famous Recollections May Vary quote. But if it wasn't serious enough to actually immediately call in medical help, why did you bring it up in an interview so many years later? I think I can tell you why. I think it was to characterise the institution of the monarchy as unforgivably negligent and even abusive in front of millions and millions of people. So the least you can do is answer a very simple question, like I said, that is in the title of this video. Why didn't you call the obstetrician? Because that would help verify the veracity of all these claims. Just answer the question in the title of this video. And like I said, when it's answered, Harry, Meghan, I'll update this video and make sure that I'm putting the fair controlling of the narrative out there. Let me know what you think down below. There will be more in this series and each video will address a different unanswered question. Bye.